Well, counselling for me started to probably 3-4 months afterwards. After we lost Ed initially, I can remember I was sort of like, Mum said, "Oh, we're going to sort of like this counselling place, and you're going to have an evaluation," or whatever she called it back then. And you don't. I was, like I say, I was probably 10 years. I think it was 10 years old, and you're just like, what am I? You don't really. You've never really heard of counselling before, I suppose, at that age. And I was a bit worried. I was like, I'm going to be like in a what you've seen on TV, like the police shows, where you're like in an interrogation room and you're sat one side, and like stone walls and metal chairs and all that horrible stuff. And it was, you walked in and it was a nice colourful room with toys everywhere and games and painting and just a very nice place. It wasn't at all like this horrible image that everyone makes it out to be, this bleak, horrible place. I was with a counsellor called Jan, and we used to come in, and like I said earlier, I was too old to just be like, let's just play for 50 minutes and like have some, just take your mind off everything. I was too old for just like come and play games all the time, but I was also too young to just sort of sit down for 50 minutes and like hash it out and talk about it. So we'd sort of come in and we'd have a bit of a chat about stuff, and then we would play some different games towards the end, and it was like a bit of a split depending on how I feel, and we'd like make different things, and we'd do different sort of, I don't know, therapy games if you like, where we talk about different things whilst like playing a game or making something. I'm not very artistic myself, so the things I made weren't exactly amazing, but that's what we did. I wasn't doing that for very, very long, less than a year, definitely, I'd say. And then I came back when everything started really, really happening again. When I was probably, teens, 13. I was old enough to sort of sit down for those 50 minutes and like hash it out, so to speak, and talk about everything. But there was still the elements of, we'd do an activity in which it wasn't just you sit there, I sit there, and we're just going to talk. You'd have different things that were used to, like, so it wasn't just that typical talking all the time. There was an interaction there that made it that bit easier, and actually you found yourself talking about stuff that you wouldn't just talk about if it was just face to face 50 minutes of like conversation.